What's up, family? It's your favorite cousin Rich, back once again with episode 25 of Rich Talks. Excuse the sniffles and all that. Yes, allergies coming down, weather change, all type of stuff going on, so bear with me. And today on episode 25, we're going to discuss the seduction of power. What makes power so interesting? What makes power so seductive is not necessarily the aspect of the person being seductive who has power. It's not necessarily that. But in a sense of power, the actual thing, the actual power being seductive. Meaning power has this characteristic. You know, you see someone who's seductive, right? Everybody wants that person who's seductive. So you place that person with power, and it's the same thing. Everybody wants that power. Everybody wants a piece of power. But why do people want power? My main belief of why people want power is control. People want power to control. But when we think about control, it's not inherently good or bad. In the world we live in, majority of the time, people who have power, it is used for malicious, ill, bad reasons, you know? Not many people who have power use it for good. Many people who wield that sword of power have used it for other people's benefits other than their self-interest. When people seek power, it's usually for self-interest. Power is so seductive because of what it allows you to do, who it allows you to be. The most interesting thing about power right now, if you look at in the news, or if you're tuned into hip-hop culture, or whatever the case may be, the biggest thing that's in the news right now is Sean Puffy Combs, Diddy, and how his love of power, that power that he wanted, seduced him to lose his soul. Again, that love of power, that power that he seeked, seduced him and he lost his soul. Just as many men have been seduced by women and lost their kingdoms, lost their families, lost their everything that they've worked for. Or women have been seduced by men and lost their families, lost their money, lost their youth. That's what power can do. Power is so seductive that you can lose control. You can lose who you are. You can lose your soul. I've been told once that those who seek power more than likely have ill intent. Those who seek it, those who's given power, are more than likely those who are willing to do right by the power. And when you think about that, it really shows you how powerful. It really shows you how dangerous, or how, excuse me, it really shows you how power can change lives, countries, people. Power has that much ability. If you look at the presidential race that's going on currently, yeah, this is currently 2024. We have Kamala versus Trump. What are they fighting for? Power. And we see the powers that be don't want one specific candidate in office. They don't want him to wield that what? Power. That power is so seductive. And they don't want this one person to wield that power that they're willing to go to extreme lengths to ensure that this one candidate does not wield that power. This is how seductive power is. Power is so seductive that it'll make you want to unalive somebody. Power is so seductive that it will make you spread false truths about someone in order to change the opinions of those who have the ability to put someone in a specific office for their betterment. Like I said, power is not inherently bad or good. It's who wields that power and their intentions. You have leaders who've had power and done great with that power. Nelson Mandela, power. He's done good with his power. Even if you have certain celebrities who use their power for beneficial reasons and not superficial reasons, for charities, donations, things of that sort. Sadly, the list is longer of those who use it for ill intent than positive reasons, sadly. But that's the world we live in. Power is the absolute. Not everyone fights for power, because I believe some people who don't fight for power understand what comes with it. And those who fight for power understand what comes with it, therefore they fight for it. But like I said, those who want power, it's more than likely for malicious intent. Those who don't seek it but it's given, they're trusted. Either by those who gave it to them, or they're trusted by the divine. They can still become corrupt, but initially, inherently, they were trusted. Power means control. Power means absolute control of whatever you're governing. That's why everybody wants power. But the sad thing about power is it doesn't come with respect. So many people seek power, but it doesn't respect you. So many people seek power, but the people who they're governing with that power don't respect them. This is where power backfires. Because if you're someone who seeks the power, and then those who you are governing with that power don't respect you, your downfall will become quick. Your downfall will come quick. But why do people seek power? What's so seductive about power? It can change the way you think, the way you feel, the way you act. Like I said, it's absolute control. Who's above you when you have power? The reason why I feel like people seek power so much It's because they want to be God. That control that they have allows them to be as close to having the powers of God as possible. Is that our shadow self that we want to be like him? I don't think so. I think that's people who seek that power. That's how seductive power is. It finesses you. It finesses you to lose your soul. To think that you could become almighty. Like I said, people who seek that power often have less empathy. Less empathy for those around them who they are governing with that power. They become tyrannical. Tyranny. These are the ones whose power corrupts them completely. Where that seduction takes over them. These are the ones whose track record beforehand was not so inviting. And they chose to have power because that sealed the deal of them pursuing their self-interest. Of course, we should say, or we can say, power should only be wielded by those who, have empathy, those who care. But power doesn't work like that. Because those who have empathy and care don't seek that power because they know how you can get lost. And those who seek that power are allowed to be seduced. Even on the rise to power, that seduction, that the way you get seduced by power on the rise of it, when you're on the rise to gain that power, how you get seduced, how you step on people's necks, how you finesse people, how you lie, how you cheat, how you steal. This is all the things that power makes you do. Again, power is so seductive that it will make you do all these things in order to wield it. Like I said, you have to think of it like a Jezebel. How this Jezebel is so seductive. And this Jezebel will make you do anything and everything in order to be with her. Yet at the end of the day, she doesn't love you. So you've done all these things, you lost who you are just to be with this Jezebel. Only at the end of the day to lose the Jezebel and yourself. And that's the same thing with power. But on the flip side, that same power that we equate to Jezebel, we can equate with someone who's beneficial for you. What is it, Esther? Esther in the Bible? We can equate that, Power can either be Jezebel or Esther. But it all stems from how you view it. It all stems from your position. That's why I say power is just like money. Money is not either good or bad. Money is just money. Money is a tool. Just like power. Power is a tool. It's who is wielding it and what do they choose to do with it. But like I said, sadly, in the world we live in, this is not the most godly place or most righteous place. Therefore, a lot of people who wield power are corrupt. Simplest put. If you look at the world and all the resources we have and how they're being allocated, you have to say the powers that be are not utilizing their power correctly. And no, they're not. Of course they're not. But that's what power does. If it's wielded by the wrong person. You know, for a second, power will make you think that you are God. Power will make you think that you are above everyone. No one can touch you. You're untouchable. And that same seductive spirit that allows power to make you think you're untouchable can get you touched. Again, prime example. Diddy, Sean Combs. One of the most powerful men in hip hop that we see. I'm pretty sure there's people way powerful than him that we don't see. But one of the most powerful figures that we're able to see. And we see right before our eyes how power corrupted him and brought him down. You see, all this that's going on with him is not because of his lust, as some people would think, with the trafficking and the this and the this and the parties. No. His downfall was power. He's someone who got seduced by power. Power was something that looked very, very good to him. And he sold his soul for that power. And if you look back at it, people say, oh, it was just these parties. No. Look way further back. If you do your research, even back to when he was in college, that search for power, people were unalived due to him. You know, there was a party going on, and because he wanted this power, because he wanted this control, because he wanted his name to be big, people lost their lives at a certain function. You can look it up. This is before we knew who Sean Combs was. If you look at the record contracts that he signed, that he got people to sign, that power that he had allowed him to sign people to horrific contracts, holding people hostage, robbing people legally. No empathy, no care. Why? Because he had the power. He wanted the power. He wanted his name to be big. No one could be bigger than him. I don't know if many of people listening to this are fans of hip hop, but did you know that Sean Combs owns majority, if not all, of Biggie Smalls' royalties? Did you know that? The late, great, notorious B.I.G., his royalties are owned by who? Sean Combs. They got to a point so bad where Big realized that, and he started writing songs. And when he would write them, he would say his daughter wrote them. He would say his daughter wrote them in order for the royalties to start coming back to his family, or him, his daughter, you know? Someone his last name, someone with his last name. Someone he knew that could benefit from it. Ain't that a shame? And what did the man who's seduced by power, what happened? He got angry when he found out. So you telling me you robbing this man blind, no pun intended, because he had a bad eye, but you robbing this man blind in order for him to put something aside for himself, in order for him to survive. What do? You get angry at him? That seductive power that Sean Combs fell for was ultimately the downfall of who? Big. Ultimately the downfall of who? Pac. And ultimately the downfall of who? Himself. After his tyrannical, reign in the 90s, what happens? The puff parties. All these parties and these sexual escapades and all this that's going on that he's been having, this wasn't about lust. This was about power. Him basking in his power. Seeing how far his power allowed him to do things and get away with things. There's other witchcraft that goes on into it, but I'm not speaking on that today. Just the power. Like I said, this power is so seductive that it's not going to alert you when you're messing up. That's how seductive this power is. Like I said, it's like a Jezebel. She's not going to tell you when you're slipping up. She's not going to tell you when to tighten up. She's not going to tell you when to stop spending. She's not going to tell you when to change your ways. You're doing too much. That Jezebel will keep on and on and on and on and on till there's nothing of you left. And that's the same thing when power is wielded by the wrong one. It's funny that this topic popped up because it goes hand in hand with everything that we're seeing right now. Whether it be a distraction or not, it's a prime example of what power can do when it's in the wrong hands. And we see it vividly. The downfall. We see when you wield that power, you don't think about your mother, you don't think about your family, all you think about is you. You don't think about the lives you're destroying, you just think about you. This is why power could be so dangerous. But then again, when it's wielded in the right hands, power can change lives. Power can bring about change. You know, you look at police. Police have power. When it's wielded by the wrong people, we see what happens. When it's wielded by the right people, what happens? Crime stops. Crimes are solved. People are helped. People are saved. People are protected. But when that power is wielded in the wrong, what do we have? Police, unaliving people. Corruption. Manipulation. Quotas being made, therefore causing civilians to be pawns in their game. No care, no empathy. And they do all this, people who wield power, for malicious reasons. The reason they do all this is because they know they can get away with it. They ultimately know that nobody can stop them. So you say, how do you stop somebody who's tyrannical, who has power? You don't. They stop themselves. See, that's how seductive power is. Like I said, it's like the Jezebel. The Jezebel's not going to tell you when to stop. The Jezebel leaves when there's nothing else to feed on. And it's the same thing like power. When power is wielded by the wrong hands, it's not going to tell you to stop when you've gone too far. The only way that you stop, or to stop somebody tyrannical who wields power, the only way that person stops is their own downfall, their own demise. It's like you just have to let it ride out. Simply put. Look at everybody who's wielded power and their downfall. It was that ultimate high of greed, the ultimate high of control, the ultimate high of power, of having it all, doing it all, being that number one person, that ultimate of wielding that, right, was their downfall. It's going to be your downfall every time. You don't have to put someone who's tyrannical or doing wrong by power. You don't have to do that. They're going to do it to themselves. Unless you have certain things established, like, the American government, where a president has 4 years, Unless you have that and set in place certain checks and balances, yes, that's another way. But other than that, if there's no checks and balances, the only way to get someone who has power to unwield that power is by their own demise. Even look at fictional characters. Who? Tony Montana. This is a good one. Tony got seduced by power. Tony started off not having power. What did he tell Manny? In America, you need money, power, respect. Tony finally got power. And what did he do with the power? He abused the power. Right before Tony got all that power, he met with a guy named who? Sosa. And Sosa told him, don't you ever F me. He said, don't you ever fuck me. Meaning, don't you ever screw me over. Don't you ever do wrong by me. Remember who helped you. Remember who, gave you this. Remember who allowed you to get to power. Remember who gave you all this to sell? Remember who was there for you? That's what Sosa told Tony. And what did Tony do? Tony forgot. Sosa had a mission for Tony. Tony thought he was bigger than the program. Sosa said, okay. That power got to Tony's head. And what happens? Tony, nobody could stop Tony. Tony unalived his brother-in-law. Tony was rude to his sister, didn't talk to his sister no more. His mama had it with him. Bodyguards had it with him. Everybody but Chi-Chi. If you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody but Chi-Chi and the fat bodyguard was the only ones who was left to ride with Tony. Because Tony was on a tirade. And what happens? That power was ultimately his downfall. Tony thought he was bigger than the program, and Sosa showed him up. Tony thought he was the most powerful man. Like I said, those who wield power. Oh, side note. If you're a Scarface fan, I advise you to watch Scarface from Sosa's point of view. It changes the game. You really see who has the power. You really see who's the man if you watch that movie from Sosa's point of view. But, like I said, those who wield power for malicious reasons, you can't do anything but just sit back and let their time run out. Because it will. It ultimately does. And that's the checks and balances of life. Life won't allow evil to dwell, wrongdoings to dwell for so long where it can not be balanced again. And this is what people who get seduced by that power fail to remember. That power is so seductive that you forget that there's checks and balances to life. And that if you're at one end of the spectrum, life has no other option but to balance it. So if you've been so tyrannical, life has no other option but to balance it. And what is that balance? Is you unwielding that power. Whether you wanted to or you were forced to, you will unwield that power. That's just how the game goes. This is a good talk. Went by quick. Remember, power is neither good or bad. It's just who's wielding it and what their plans are for it. Hope this helps somebody today. It's your favorite cousin. I love y'all. Y'all be safe. Love and blessings.